Hey guys, Logan here from Popular Woodworking Magazine. So one of my favorite tools in the shop for the last several years has been this PantoRouter. And if you guys haven't seen how this works, I'll leave a link to a video that John Henry and I did from PantoRouter using this and building a cart for this. But it's been one of my favorite joinery tools in the shop. In fact, this has actually replaced my hollow chisel mortiser. This is just easier and faster in my opinion. And one thing that I appreciate about PantoRouter is that they've continued to listen to the PantoRouter community and released new accessories over the years to kind of help improve how this is used. And when I was at AWFS in Las Vegas a couple months back, they unveiled some new accessories that I ordered in, and I want to show you those today. So let's start kind of how this is set up. This is pretty much set up with a few exceptions how the PantoRouter comes. It has a fence, the router, the pantograph here, and these clamps. Now the first new accessory is this fence. So the original fence is this bigger piece here that doesn't have a cutout. And this works well, but you can't get the standard clamps real close to the workpiece. So the new fence has a cutout at the end, and that allows you to put your workpiece in, and then you can scooch the clamps right up to it from both sides, which is really handy. So I really like that feature. Now talking about clamps, we have a couple of different styles of clamps now. These guys are the original ones that PantoRouter includes in the kit. These slide in to the T-slots on this aluminum table, and then they kind of pivot down, and then they're ratcheting to lock the workpiece down. The new clamps are a little bit beefier. So these guys are an upgrade to these guys. These work well, but there are a couple of features of this style clamp that I really like. So the first thing that I really like about these is that the head is fairly far away from the foot. So once you lock this down, and this is another nice feature, is you can lock this down. So this clamp doesn't move now, whereas the original ones kind of slide back and forth. Not that big a deal, but if you're doing a bunch of work pieces at once, so say you're doing a bunch of mortises or tenons on the ends of work pieces, you can lock this clamp in place, and this isn't gonna move. So every time you go to flip out your work piece, simply have to just slide it down, and then it uses the same ratcheting mechanism to hold it down. These guys work, they work great. Just a little bit less convenient. And these are a little bit more stout, which is really nice. Now there's another clamping option that I'll show you in a minute, but first I want to flip this table up to show you these. Now these guys are new stiffening bars. This extruded aluminum table is pretty stiff as is. But with the addition of these a little bit more robust clamps and the air clamps that I'll show you in a minute, these stiffening bars just help avoid any distortion of the table because you can apply a boatload of pressure with these. You don't want to cause this table to twist or warp at all. So these stiffening bars help avoid that. Now while we're talking about the table, let's talk about this new centering scale here. I'll pull the fence off so we can see that a little bit better. Now when you set up your PantoRouter, following the procedure that PantoRouter has in their manual, you're going to scribe a center line on the table. Now I've scribed this one a couple years ago when we set this up, but that's kind of the center point for your work. So when you put your fence in, you're basically referencing the fence scale off of that center point. However, it is very nice to have some form of fixed reference on the table for sizing. So this new centering scale here slides in this last slot on this T-track. It has a center scale on it. It's in both metric and imperial. I have the imperial side up, so it's a standard inch scale. And it's based off the center, so I have a 1 inch increment on both the operator and the non-operator side, and it goes clear out to 8 inches. So that's a nice little addition. Before we talk about the air clamps, let's look at some of the accessories that are going to be on the template side of the PantoRouter. Now the first is going to be this thickness gauge. This is the thickness gauge XL. It's a little bit bigger than the standard thickness gauge. And I like this edition. It's an inexpensive edition, but it's a good one. And the reason I like it is to set up your thickness on the PantoRouter. You take your workpiece, whatever you're working on, you slide up the template holder, and then you position your workpiece and slide the template holder down until it pinches it between the thickness gauge and the template holder, and then you lock down your head. Having that extra width and depth on the thickness gauge just makes it a little bit more user-friendly. And I think that's what you'll find with a lot of these accessories is they just help increase the user experience a little bit more. So that's the thickness gauge XL. Another addition that's nice is this guy. This is the micro adjust gauge. What this allows you to do, you can fine tune the position of that template holder with that micro adjust dial. Now, most of the time you're gonna be working with a centered the centered mortise or centered position on your workpiece, but there are times where you might need to adjust that up or down. If you're doing like a small shadow line on pieces, you need to offset them. This is a great way to just fine tune the position of the template holder. Now, talking about template holder, here's another accessory that has been out for a while, but I just added, and it's a cool addition that I don't think that I'm gonna use all the time, but when you need it, it's one of those things that it's pretty invaluable. And that's gonna be this vertical template holder. Now, this guy is just a tiny little piece of extruded aluminum, and it's drilled with 2 holes for screws, and then the centering hole. And if you're familiar with the PantoRouter, you'll know the centering hole, and I'll show you here in a second. But this guy slides into the track up here. It can go up, it can go down, whichever orientation you need it. And then it gets centered on the template holder, just like so. And now we have a different way to hold our templates. You know, the templates are keyed with little splines on the back, so they only go on one direction. However, with this, you can actually slide them on in either direction, which is kind of fun. It opens up a world of possibilities. And that's kind of the fun thing about the PantoRouter is that, yeah, I mainly use it for mortise and tenons, but your imagination is really the limit with what you can do with it. So by being able to hold these templates in different orientations, it just opens up that many more possibilities. Okay, now for ultimate production work, these air clamps are a great accessory. Now, I positioned this workpiece with the swing stop, and this isn't really new. I think the last video John Henry and I did, which I'll include a link to, we had the swing stop in place, and this works really well to set a consistent and repeatable protrusion of your workpiece off the end of the table. But swing stop aside, these air clamps are really, in my mind, one of the best user functions that you can add on here, because if you're making a bunch of parts, you don't have to mess around with these lever style clamps. They work well, but if speed is really what you're looking at, these air clamps are great. So they use the same universal base. There's 2 air pistons, or there's an air piston on each universal base, and you can adjust them where they're sitting on this post with the knob back here. They're wired, or they're plumbed, I guess, in series, so when you hit the little actuator, it clamps both of them down. And you can kind of control the pressure that they're putting down by where you position the air cylinders on the universal base. And then there's also a little needle adjustment valve on this air block on the bottom side. And the air block just has a little toggle switch, and that actuates the air clamps. It releases the air to open them up, and then flipping the lever clamps them back down. Now, that air block is connected to an air compressor. So we need about 50 PSI, maximum of 50 PSI, to run these things, but it makes clamping workpieces super efficient. So if you're working on a bunch of workpieces, like say I was doing a kitchen and I needed to make a bunch of face frames with mortises on workpieces or tenons on the ends, these air clamps are really gonna speed up that process, and it's gonna make sure that I have consistent pressure, I can get consistent results. You know, the PantoRouter is really one of my favorite tools in the shop, especially for joinery, and I think the addition of some of these what can be fairly inexpensive upgrades to add to your PantoRouter, or a little bit more expensive ones like the air clamps, really make the user experience that much better, and it's going to make it more enjoyable to use. And if you're interested in how the PantoRouter works, I'll include a link to the video I did on the overview on it. It's been a great tool and I love using it, and I think I'm going to enjoy it much more with these accessories.